Well, hello out there, creatives, community, kind folks. Thank you for joining me. Today, we together are going to talk about constructs. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about constructs all week. Today, Hump Day, is World Building Wednesday, and we get to talk about constructs, golems, um, statues, um, gear forged, whatever you use in your tabletop RPG games. Even in the far future, they talk about androids and things, although we might want to hold that off a little bit till future Friday. But today we're going to, on World Building Wednesday, we want to talk about a setting. We're going to build ourselves a world where these artificial beings that are constructed by humanity have the most important impact in the world. So bear with me. I want to give you, meaning us, a little insight into our artificial world and then see how we can expand from there. So I'm imagining a world in which, of course, there's probably magic, a little bit of science. It might be on the cusp of war. It may be extremely divergent cultures all trying to interact with each other. But there may be one individual, maybe even a small group of individuals has cracked the code. They've been able to construct a humanoid figure, whether they carved it out of stone or assembled body parts or used some sort of steam powered or soul stone enabled creation, humanoid like creation, and they've cracked the code. So now they've created it and they could never keep the secret again. Either they've used it to save lives or they used it for entertainment purposes, or maybe this individual was just a mad scientist, just a person who wanted to see if they could do it. And unfortunately, everyone got their hands on it, whether they are the plans, whether other people were inspired to create the same thing, whether spies were able to steal the information or kidnap the scientists and extract the very special techniques to create this living automaton, and it has spread like wildfire throughout this world in to such a degree that they are everywhere. They're ubiquitous. They are in nearly every corner of the world. Now, I'm not saying that they're overpopulated, but if you go into a major city, they are on either side of the main gates. If you go into a temple, there are automatons walking around the temple grounds cleaning. If you see a noble or a rich merchant, they're flanked by big burly steel or stone or wood and brass constructs and such. And so let's go from there and think of a world where these constructs are nearly like one out of every 50, maybe one out of every 10 individuals in the world. So we could go down the route of Eberron, or maybe even pre-Eberron, in the sense that when you have machines or living golems and such, they make great enforcers. They make great warriors, right? They take orders. You don't have to worry about feeding them. Feeding them in the sense of harvesting food. Maybe they take some other form of energy, whether it is, sitting in front of the setting sun, or the construct wrangler maybe has to replace the soul stone inside of them periodically, or read the enchanting words to get them to reactivate or something. But in the traditional sense of food for the living masses, they don't consume any of that. And so they probably make pretty good war machines. Now, I'm sure as like a Cold War. Maybe they someone hasn't created 10,000 of them just to march across someone else's land yet, for fear that the opposing side might be thinking of and trying to do the exact same thing. There may be some limitations as to how many wranglers can control them, but I'm picturing a world where even the magic and the power that exists has gotten to the point where it even flows through the automatons, right? It's like, instead of a wizard, shooting a lightning bolt, they enchant the constructs to do the same thing. Like, hey, I'm not getting my hands dirty. Let the constructs do it. Even the dwarven forges or something are like, I'm not using my hands to dig anything. I'm gonna let my 6 automatons, find the ores of silver or quartz or whatever the case may be. Now, it does seem to, if we take this to an extreme, there may be a large class of people that are just basically lazy, not needing or feeling like they don't need to have any survivalist techniques. Maybe there's not just a large class of nobles, but there may even be a class of like maybe idle rich isn't quite the word, but a population of the elite or glitterati or like social movers and shakers that order around their automatons, and the number of them and the design of them may be such that it gives an individual their own social status, based on the materials they're made of. Like mine has, it has inlays of gold and silver and gemstones, or has been carved to such the likeness of humanity that, only the material it's made out of shows that it isn't a human being or something. There may even be people who attribute, although they may not have any, they may not be completely sentient, not Warforged yet. People may attribute to them humanistic traits, considering them members of families and such. And I'm just picturing or imagining like spellcasters and wizards and even other alchemists and such using their gifts, but using them through the automaton. So the wizard enchants the creature to, it fires a fireball out of the palm of its hand or its chest, or the alchemist is able to load a cannon of sorts. I'm very much thinking there's a role-playing setting known as Iron Kingdoms, and I'm thinking of something like an Iron Kingdoms where you have this individual. Maybe there's even someone, or there's classes of people that wander different areas of the world with their entourage of automatons for the highest bidder, like mercenary groups, but not just for war or bodyguarding and such, but maybe they are able to remove trees out of the way of a major route for commerce or something, or they're able to, the castle walls have fallen through disuse or even battle or something there, and this individual comes in, the dwarf and his two best friends, two human best friends, are like all greasy and dirty and stuff, and they're like, all right, well, we'll help you build that for the right price, and the prices might not be in gold. It might be in like favors or laboratory space, or even materials to build even more of them. And even taking that to the extreme, you could imagine a world that's mostly wasteland, from like strip mining, depending on what the materials are used for, like the constructs. Maybe if we go for like metal and stone as being metal, stone, wood, I think collectively could be like the main three materials that are used to build these things, through strip mining and deforestation and uh, scavenging and things. Maybe there's huge swaths of this world that are now wasteland, and you could even you could even go through, oh, what is the series where the traction communities where the cities are mobile and they're each trying to consume resources from other mobile cities. You don't have to necessarily make giant cities on wheels spewing out smoke, diesel smoke, but there could be this idea of mobile or semi-mobile cities where they send out these explorers, warriors, um, surveyors of sorts, surrounded by automatons that are going to find more supplies because most of the half the side of a mountain has been stripped away. Mortal Engines, that's it. Thank you very much. Mortal Engines have the traction cities that are rolling around this wasteland, and all you just see like these giant city-sized tire tracks and treads, like as if they've dug through dry earth and mud and such. But now I'm sure, you know, I understand that the execution of the movie wasn't good. I didn't see it. I have heard that the execution of the movie and its plot wasn't very good, but I've heard that the book series is far better. Many book series are far better because we get to make our own movie in our head. But that being said, a setting where there are like spider-legged cities or white marble, city-sized golems carrying these cities on in plates on their backs or something, or like Atlas kneeling down when the city has to stop and allow their surveyors out to go find further supplies and such. And I think that would be kind of a cool setting. That it, well, Zavko, you don't have to. Hey, dude, man, like you don't have to be here. I'm not that you're not welcome, but yeah, if Zevron, if you're not, hey man, if you're suffering, dude, like relax. We'll always be here, man. We'll always be here. I I I hope I'm allowing the migraine to go away. Although I would pretty much assume that my oh, okay. I'm pretty much assuming that my voice is migraine inducing, so whatever. Uh, but again, I think you could have a lot of stories with a setting where now that Zevron's here, there are plenty of e- Egypt Egyptized constructs would be created. I guarantee you, if you type in statues into Google, you're going to get them from so many different cultures, and I think that would be great to pull on those as if they are. Yeah, Zems, you know who say that, DBJ? Goddamn Sith body snatchers. Now, um, here's some of the stories I think we could tell in a setting where um, constructs and automatons and golems have dominated the culture. You definitely can do a ton of espionage stories, stealing supplies, stealing plans, finding out what other enemy factions or roaming factions are planning on doing. Um, Discovering which nations or factions are working together, with so many probably at odds, trying to save their own people and keep themselves above water because they're uh, burning out resources to create even more elaborately designed and upkeep designed on their constructs. I'm thinking of like a Cold War where it's not that everyone absolutely wants or even desires to have these constructs, but the, it's the it's like you can't turn back now. It's once one organization started creating them and using them in a very public and very dramatic way, everyone else feels like they have to keep up with that. And so I'm imagining where it's not even that these, I'm sure there will be people who are like, oh, they're my best friend, I love them. But there may be plenty of other people, farmers and swordsmen and wizards and such, who would druids who would prefer to be doing other things and trying to find supplies to construct even more powerful golems and such. But yeah, it's like everyone's just like, well, to keep up with the Joneses, we're gonna have to do this thing, or to defend our people, we're gonna have to do this other thing. um Zev says personal magic foci, built-in tools for multiple situations. There could be, I could imagine there would be, in terms of storytelling, maybe there are individuals who are very powerful spellcasters, or even um, clerics, divine individuals who are able to give life to their constructs, and maybe going along kind of what Zev is saying about stealing some of their personal items or magical foci. Because if you steal the the white marble rod of the king of Parnlin or something, then his entourage of 20 golems will be disabled, and we can sneak into the city. And that, of course, that's going to be a capital offense, right? You steal whether it's a rod or a ring or a medallion or a helmet or what have you, a tiara that someone wears to control them, that's stealing them or destroying them or breaking them, or finding out how they created their specific type of golems. If you have multiple golem types, in fifth edition, of course, we've got clay golems, stone, iron, flesh. And if you go through the past of D&D, there are plenty of other golems constructed of other things, like crystal, and I think there's even other semi-solid surfaces like mud and smoke, something like that. But whatever the case may be, whatever they're constructed from, there may be enough differences so that you're not confronting the same stone golems over and over again, especially if they have different looks. Like, I even suggested, like, you can have a traditional gargoyle, sharp teeth, gothic, sitting on the edge of a building, being able to fly. And maybe the paladin's order has the same gargoyles in air quotes, but they are made out of like white marble with angelic wings and beautiful faces and a spear in their hand or something. So we could definitely go in different directions with that. And of course, meeting them in different regions, right? Maybe in a deep jungle, there's a tribe of people who have these Buddha-like statues that not just defend them, but defend ancient crypts and such. And they might be covered in moss or fungus or vines or something, from explorers that go into the deep jungles, whereas maybe there's a coastal community that has them covered in barnacles and natural coral as they walk down into the sea with some maybe some other deep divers to find pearls and other treasure from sunken ships or something. And the golems themselves may be it might be the safest place to put some of your favorite items. The wizard puts their spell book inside of a golem. Why? Because the golem can kick ass if you try to steal it. There may be specific tools to carve gemstones, or specific types of information that you need to get from place to place. And what better, sure, someone may know that's a messenger golem, but to get the message outside of its locked chest might be very difficult to do so as well. So I'm thinking a lot of espionage, lots of sabotage would be a thing. Diplomacy, diplomacy, going right or wrong, may be very instrumental for player characters, meaning they may have to deal with lots of opposing factions and trying to get them to work together, much like a uh, Blades in the Dark kind of thing. Like the more factions you befriend, the more you create enemies of others. Uh, uh, Zev says, are Warforged or Synths former humanoids? It's a possibility. Now, I'm thinking of a setting where that hasn't happened yet, but that may be a deeper, darker thing going on in this setting that we've created. Jenny says, oh, hey, what's going on there, Jenny? I don't think you're saying '07. I think you're like winking. Um, Thank you for joining us. So I'm thinking, oh, it's why? Thank you very much. I'm I'm an old head, so I'm a gray beard, grognard. So you're gonna have to explain these things to me. Um, so I'm thinking that some of the plots you could create. There, see, Zev, you already went there, man. Zevron says wizards transferring consciousness, slaves being converted into soldiers or robotic servants. Exactly. That might be a deeper plot the PCs uncover, and maybe they're being hunted because the PCs, through a course of events, find this out that there are like you're saying, there are wizards who are transferring the consciousness maybe of themselves or nobles to become immortal. There may be draconian there may be draconian cultures that are using slaves or political dissidents to transfer the consciousnesses of prisoners into these warforged type synthetic bodies. Maybe the act of doing that shreds their consciousnesses, so the consciousnesses may not be sentient, but they're used to power them, and it makes them far more independent and maybe even pliable, or allowing the constructs to maybe um, extend further away from their masters and engage in very highly technical, very dexterous activities that other people, you know, a golem that can juggle, right? Other people are like, how did they design a golem that can juggle? Whereas this person may have been a street thief, a pickpocket and a thief, and then was punished and their consciousness was shredded. Now, direct consciousness transference may be a thing as well, whereas maybe there's some noble families that have done this partially or wholly. It could be a one-way trip, or there could be people nobles sleeping in pods and transfer their consciousnesses into different types of forged bodies. Zev says, or wizards turning into warforged bodies as their human bodies were becoming too frail to pick up things. I'm with you on that. This could be the thing that is either incongruous to, or in competition with, or slowly eliminates the necromancer of this kind of world. So like the idea of creating these constructs may have superseded the idea of a necromancer, to the point where there are people who, of course, who are aging, who want to dominate the world, who are trying to create political unrest. There could even be a rebel faction, and rebel factions are trying to acquire these empty shelled, kind of kit bashed, put together, jury rigged machines or constructs or stone statues or whatever have you. And it's a one-way trip for the rebels to go into these bodies to save their people or defend them from refugees fleeing from these draconian societies. And so the warriors may be inside of them to defend their people, like I'll hold the line while you escape or something. Zevron says, a great knight wishing to be immortalized into serving a family or nation turns into a warforged. Their activation code will wake them and force them to protect their charges. Now, you can play that two ways. One way would be it's completely embraced by the people. Like, there could be a great ceremony in front of everyone, much like being knighted. This might be like the next step into being knighted, where maybe even their construct looks kind of like them, a likeness of them, or maybe the construct wears a cloak or a banner that kind of represents who they are, or their dedication to an oath, and they give of their, maybe they're getting the knight is getting older or was seriously injured in battle or has just come of age and it's like, no, I'm going to serve my community, forever, immortalized into this construct. And the dad is crying and the mom is just like, got her fist in the air like, yes, my son's going to do it. And dad is crying like, oh, my son is going to be, he's doing this. I can't believe we'll never get him back or something. Right now, culturally, maybe their family is honored forever. Like, what, your son gave his life to serve our community. We cherish you. Or in more of, again, the draconian cultures, they may force their young people to, take part in these things. Since I like how gung-ho the mom was. Mom's like, yes, go for it. You kick ass. Dad's like, no, I want my son back, but I'm sure you could rationalize so many twists and turns in that kind of culture to turn them into Warforged. And mind you, when as I'm referring to Warforged, and Warforged comes from Eberron, we could even play with the idea of what the Warforged are. How do they look? What materials are they made of? How old or young are they? Is the oldest Warforged hundreds or thousands of years old? Or is the oldest Warforged a few months old in a world where mindless automatons have lived for hundreds of years, right? We can play with the time frame and how deeply we want to go into how deep the communities have embraced them. Like, do they look at all Warforged as mindless? Are the Warforged of a different creation than the mindless ones? Are they of different sizes? Is the transference process a madness inducing, so the Warforged must look humanoid, whereas the mindless ones can be like spiders or crabs or tanks and things of that nature, and they may not even be traditional machines that we're thinking of with gears and pistons or steam, spewing out of a pipe out of the back of their neck or something. They could be just literally carved from stone or wood or crystal or iron ore poured into a mold and then given, activated through simple divine decree or magical power or something. Now, Zev goes on to say, and imagine if the royal family they were in charge of died, or if the nation was taken over or faded away. I'm thinking you're saying like this knight or this we have to give them a name. So this entourage of knights, like the oath of the ivory, the ivory blockade or something, would exist in this world. But if the noble family died off, or the nation that they were hoping to defend faded away, what happens to them? And like, do they continue? Or do they have full independence? Are they able to find others to dedicate themselves to? Or are there some who just cannot change their programming? And once they've given of themselves to protect this community, even if the community is completely destroyed and there's no one left, that they still patrol the crumbled city walls and city streets and such. I'm imagining, Oath of the Steel Heart. I like that. I like that a lot. And it maybe even like a cortical stack, maybe this steel heart, whatever shape it may be, it could be a steel box. It could hold something inside of it, like a phylactery for a lich. It could be something very important to that individual that they have to give up. And once they put it inside the box, it's sealed tight and can never be opened. And if you obtain the box, you control them. And if you open up the box, you can kill them. Janny says, sounds like a curse to me. And I'm thinking, yeah, it very well could be. Zevron says, in my world, if Warforged attack the nation of Sirius and are considered a weapon of a rival nation, until a captured unit asks its captors to, "Do I have a soul? I'm sorry." Which this is a strange but cool thing that we've seen in the media, where you could have a an automaton that can speak, who is begging for like forgiveness, or telling the people it's attacking to run for it because it doesn't have control of its own body. I mean, these knights could be ordered to slay the people, and while they're doing their horrible thing of slaying innocent people, they could be screaming at the top of their lungs like, "Run, run, stay away from my hand. You know, getting close to me is nothing but death," as they try to slaughter the people at the same time they're screaming to them to run for cover, which in itself could be a great motivator for PCs to like, okay, we've got to figure out how to free our people who are dedicated to serving the nation, who have been corrupted by an evil noble or enemy faction or whatever have you, to keep them and save their own souls. You know what I mean? Scott Post says Warforged, born into a kaku and wooden puppet heavy society built for specific tasks like carved mecha. You mean, so I'm thinking what you're saying, Scott, it's like different Warforged could be constructed for different purposes, much like C3PO is it is a robot designed for diplomacy, languages, learning specific types of cultures, and like an envoy, whereas you could have other Warforged that are specifically designed for espionage. Maybe there's like ropes or cables inside of it to scale buildings. Maybe they have like they're able to move very quietly by powering themselves down, or expel smoke or mist out of their body to create cover or something. So not just like instead of a Warforged casting spells, the spells could just be reskinned as devices placed inside of them. So instead of shooting a magic missile, it could be a weapon in their arm. Instead of creating a cloud of fog through magic, it's their steam powered body expelling the magic out of their vents. I mean, the steam out of their vents to create cover for themselves. That'd be kind of cool, man. That'd be really cool. Zevron says it's now a matter of debate if they deserve freedom, a chance of life or citizenship. And I could imagine there would be a lot of debate, and there might be people marching in the streets like they don't deserve life simply because of the danger that they represent. Because it could be pretty horrible to find out that today these sentient Warforged are protecting the people, but once someone obtains the rod of control, that they turn against their own people, right? That can be kind of scary. Whereas others could be defending them and saying, "Well, no, this is my ancestor, this is my uncle, right? This is my sister, and I'm not going to let anything happen to her. As a matter of fact, I'm going to become one." And the sister's like, "No, you know, you're too young for this. You don't want to." You don't want to volunteer for this process. And remember, it could be a deeply held secret that the people who are able to do this process themselves could themselves make themselves little kingdoms of their own. Like, you want to volunteer for this? What do you have? What can you give me? Although there might be quite a bit of assassinations, poisons, and other things, strangulations of these people who are able to perform these processes as well. On one hand, you have to balance as a king, like, okay, do I train 15 other people to learn how to do this? Because they might be bribed or kidnapped and go to my rivals. But if I only train one other person, they could be killed by a spy who sneaks in from my enemy nation and poison them in their sleep or something. So, cuckoo? Yeah, I was wondering the same thing, Scott. But I'm thinking it's thumbs on a phone. That's what I'm thinking. So that's what I'm thinking you did there, Scott. Janny says, just like in the System Shock games and prey. Oh, you're saying about the freedom of artificial being, like the more the the closer to human behaviors and thoughts an artificial being has, the closer we think of them as being um, not humanoid, but being sentient, and the more we may embrace them. And so, yeah, I could see that. So everyone says, if they deserve to be treated as people, should they be arrested? I don't know. Do you arrest them or do you deactivate them? And is activation and deactivation or servitude a better, more lenient punishment or worse punishment for the people who are trapped inside? Right. The 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 honorable warrior who wanted to defend the people now becomes in service after they've lost, and it serves a horrible dictator, and is being used to instill fear amongst the people. Is that more horrible for that person? And then we still haven't talked about, there may be some Warforged who have gone mad, who've suffered from going into catatonia, who are suffering from many, if not most, psychological issues of PTSD and madness, and just who have regressed in their thoughts, or maybe they are. This is kind of a weird way to say this. Because they're not biological, maybe they cannot forget the horrible things they've done, as opposed to those of us that age over time. We start to lose our memories a little bit. Things start to fade in the background. For them, every day may be as if it's whatever they've done 150 years ago. It's as if they did it yesterday. And maybe that's the thing that's driving them insane and driving them to try to find ways to break out of this eternal nightmarish loop of doing the things they don't want to do. Yeah, Zevron, it goes on to say, is it their fault that they were forced to be assassins and warriors? It's killing the messenger, right? Like, is it their fault? Some people would say, well, it may not be your fault, but you're the weapon, and if we get rid of the weapon, we get rid of the threat, right? That's a real fight today, and that may be the fight in this setting as well. Zeb goes on to say, now a synth, if a being thinks its emotions and memories are real and can feel the fear of non-existence, is it a person? That question, as we don't need to answer that question. I feel like role playing the answer to that question may be its own overriding setting theme. For me, it's not whether you can answer the question. It's the act of trying to answer that question, and that would be really good, especially if in one community, oh, they have their own answer, and then you go over a mountain valley or something and they've got their own answer, and you're like, wait a minute, those two answers don't match. And that may just be a matter of perspective. Yeah, Janny says, in those games you have possessed humans who can't control their bodies. Absolutely. And goes on to say, God, that sounds like a nightmare existence. It would. And one talking about what would players do in this world, maybe the players are literally, this is a weird thing to say, but like exorcists of a sort, going around trying to excise the spirits of these people trapped in these mechanical bodies to escape. And the PCs might be anti-constructionists. Sorry. Wow, it snuck up on me. I apologize for that. I don't have a sneeze button. Yeah, Polora says there's a cop show about that. Can't remember what it's called. A woman has a perfect memory with all the benefits and drawbacks that brings. I believe at least one of those cop shows was called The Rememberer. No, it was called not Flashback. Her name was, I'm about to say Piper Paraboo. Her name was wow. She used to be on Without a Trace. She's Oh wow. Yes, yes, there is a television show. She has a perfect memory and she's like a detective or and such. And that would be a very cool Warforged type of character, even organization of Warforged styled detectives who are going around solving crimes because they never forget anything. But the problem with them and some of the fears people have is that they never forget anything. And if they see something horrible, they go to a crime scene and they see something horrible, they can't forget that thing that happened to these people, whereas the rest of us could like drink it away, or um over time it might fade, and for them they just can't do it without having that perfect body. Yeah, Scott Poe says they're desperate to find a way to drink to forget and they can't do it. Yeah. Janny goes on to say they keep talking out loud how if they spot someone, they'll be forced to attack. Oh, you're saying like if they spot someone that's like an enemy or something, their programming may force them to do that. Oh, yeah. So it's in you and your best interest that you sneak around them, right? Yes, because they could be programmed to go after specific enemies of, say, a specific nation, and the king is like, if you see them, destroy them. And the guard is like, I don't want to do that, but I'm gonna have to. you know and maybe the guard actually verbally tells some friends, like, get the word out. If I see them, tell them that we're all ordered to destroy them, to kill them on sight. Let them know. And that would be an interesting dichotomy of the players have their best friend hunting them down through a city while at the same time saying, like, run for it. I can't control myself. I can't. And the friend is like, there's something inside of you, fight it. that yeah. Yeah, Puller, I can stop anytime I want. Yeah, right. Yeah. Janny says, so it's sorry, Zeron says, imagine a player character goes throughout multiple sessions becoming friends with the others, helping NPCs, growing and maintaining relationships, and then they attack an evil wizard and see their corpse. They were a construct meant to become a spy, but was considered a defect and was thrown away. Ooh, yeah. Who knows? Maybe independence is the mistake because they're trying to construct them to be completely obedient, and the only way to make them serviceable is to first put in an independent mind, and then start to hack away at their independence, much like RoboCop, right? It could be the RoboCopized construct setting where we're thinking of them as mindless, but then come to find out that the factories that are putting them in there are literally tortured spirits, and having their humanity tortured out of them, cut away or cut away psychologically or physically. And yes, Pelora, thank you very much. The television show was called Unforgettable. It actually was a really good television show, where you're able to follow along with the main character who just walks randomly into, say, a mall or down the street or talking with friends or driving in a car, and then something dramatic happens, an explosion, or they walk into a crime scene or something, and then the television show is able to rewind backwards into her thoughts as she's able to pick up the couple with their baby carriage and walking the dog, and the person selling hot dogs and things, and go backwards. And that might be a very cool method to do investigations without literally having to take a pencil and poke at details. The character who has the perfect memory could be many miles away, but they are reflecting back into the events that happened and investigating the incidences by rewinding and playing back and forwards what happened and trying to get different angles. And it's possible that, let's say, the enemy that set off an explosion with like some alchemical formula, maybe their face was never seen, but you're like, I never saw their face. And even though I'm going back and using magic to make this illusionary like 3D image, it's like, oh no, but I know who did it. I know what size they are. And I know I can see a tattoo on their forearm, or I can see a ring that they're wearing or something like that. As everyone says, buddy, you've been hitting the diesel pretty hard. 2 cans is your limit. Yeah. Or maybe, just maybe, characters, even PCs, are half physical, half spiritual, and periodically they have to leave as an ethereal being out, leaving the mechanical body to inhabit or to float away from the body. That would be kind of a weird thing to see, where someone, you have this big burly construct that is best friends with this person, and then when the spirit leaves, like let's say there's a guy who's like, I don't know why, but I don't know, this construct is my best friend. I feel kind of odd because I, I feel like I'm closer than just friends, and then come to find out that maybe there's a young lady that's been inside of this big burly um construct, and he's like, that's why have feelings for this person, right? Where you could play with we talked about this last week when transhumanism, like you could play with the idea of gender, since constructs don't have a gender, but the spirit of a sentient person put into one could have a gender, as a in contrast to, say, Warforged given sentience, who never had genders in the first place. And uh yeah. Zev says, you want to wipe out your debt? Just join our experiment. Don't worry, whatever happens, you'll just consider it a bad dream, right? You guys talking about Midsummer. I wonder if you're talking about the movie. Yeah. Zev says, in the game Destiny, the Evo are a race created from humans that were experimented on by a family known as the Brays. They were made to combat an alien foe. The process gave them pseudo needs like hunger, sense of touch, to help them not go insane. See? And that's a great reason for, we talked about this yesterday, about immunities and invulnerabilities, and why would Warforged have some of the same limitations that biological human beings would have? Sleep, food, water, pain, that kind of thing, right? So, for example, a Warforged with 20 hit points and a lower armor class, someone might say, well, look, I made a stone. It doesn't make sense. It may not be that attacks are destroying the Warforged or the sentient statue. It could be that the attacks are transferring the pain and the exhaustion into the humanoid mind that is inside of the construct, if you understand where I'm going with this, right? It's not that literal chunks are being cut out of the person. It's the pain of being smashed in the head with a hammer is transferring the actual impact of being hit, while, when they drop to 0 hit points, they just turn into a statue, and of course the need to sleep and even the act of trying to eat might be a necessity, that gives them, that allows them to hold on to their humanity and not go insane, like you're saying, Zev. Janny says, how about you let the player create this elaborate background and everything, and then a couple of campaigns later, they find out that all of that was just an implanted memory, and the characters are just a clone of some sort. Yeah, we did that last week too. Yeah, talking about the idea of your memories not belonging to you, that they've been implanted. And imagine if you also find out that you receive a message that you yourself implanted these false memories or deleted memories, much like Total Recall, right? Where, oh, wait, I'm this great person. And then you find out that, no, you weren't. You're a pretty evil person who escaped justice by cutting away or deleting part of their own memories or something, that'd be kind of cool as well. Like you could play with that process and such. Where Zevron says, because I read the word, the process required to wipe their memory, the number after their name being how many times their memories were wiped. The gunsmith Banshee 44 was memory wiped 44 times. He now has memory issues. Yeah, yeah, wow. And you could even play with that, like maybe like alpha using like the Latin like alpha, beta, gamma might be the creche where they were birthed. If that might be the factory or the unit system, like everyone of omega from or gamma or whatever was from the same location, even if that location's now destroyed. And to go, maybe you have to go back there to maybe try to recover your lost memories, which is a great tool because you could make this either a psychological game where the players have physical challenges, but they also have psychological challenges as who am I? What am I? Am I only human based on the memories that I have? And even if my memories are artificial, much like the television show Westworld, even if my memories are artificial, they're still mine and they're real to me. Whereas others might be trying to reconnect with their old memories and their old friends and family, if they have any. And you could make their memories a physical thing that they are able to gather, which could be a reason to give out the air quotes again. This is how you level up. This is how you gain experience in the game. It's not a matter of, oh, I did enough things, I'm going to level up. Leveling up might be gathering more and more memories and implanting them. And this could be this kind of strange, but maybe you gather memories from other people. It's not a matter of whether they're your memories or not. Maybe it's just a matter of having memories in the first place. So you could gain a memory of being a great cook, and even though racially you weren't even related to this person, they're now your memories and you hold them dear. So you have like a collection of like 15 different memories from 12 other people. And maybe you now have an emotional connection to people that you've never met simply by picking up, whether it's a chip or a rune or something that you've implanted inside of yourself. Jenny says that would drive most people insane. True, but what a great, you could make some great character concepts, right? None of the memories are yours; they're just hodgepodge from different people from different walks of life, and now you have this emotional. Not only do you gain the skills, but you gain the emotional connection. And when you meet these people, they're like, "I don't know who you are and what you are, but could you leave me alone?" You're like, "But I'm your father." You're like, what? Well, I'm not just your father, but I'm also their aunt, and I'm his sister, but I'm also a grandmother. That would be kind of cool. I'm your son as well as your daughter. um, as everyone says, it's actually sad because a character, Kate, I'm going to pronounce it Katie 6, another EXO, passed away last September, and he was destroyed upon hearing he died. Not after, or not after he helps you fix up his gun and gives it to you. He asks where Katie is, and when he's coming back to the tower, no one has the heart to tell him. Oh, so let's see if I'm gonna break this apart a little bit. Katie, or is it Cade? Is it Cade? Whatever the case may be, I'm gonna break apart what you're saying. So it's Cade. Thank you. So taking that apart, there's a possibility that our memories may not line up with the timeline involved in what we're doing. So for example, someone's memories could be very many years old, a year, 15 years, 20 years old, much like an equivalent of, say, Alzheimer's, where we are living a character could live in a time period which has long since gone. So at one point, the person hears about their loved one dying and it drives them insane. And they're like, I can't take this loss. And they could literally physically remove that memory from themselves. And then now they're like, oh, this person is alive. And everyone around them is like, no, they passed, but don't say anything about it. And the story could be that they don't understand why they don't remember this person dying until maybe they find this memory and insert the memory back, or they relive the experience all over again, driving them yet insane. And then they remove that memory, finding out that, wait a minute, I removed this memory 44 times or 43 times before, and now it's the 44th time, right? I think this would be a very strange and detailed and very chaotic setting, but I would love to see this kind of setting. And again, whether this is far future science fiction, whether it's done in Dungeons and Dragons fantasy, I think you could have a lot of fun with this. And what a strange world this would be, even if you overlaid it in a world that you already have, like a Ravnica, or maybe this is going on in a distant continent in your own world that has not, like, maybe part of your world is completely wild and untamed, and given the right explorers to travel across a vast ocean, much like the States being discovered by Columbus and, going into the Caribbean or something, this may be going on in the other side of your planetary world, whereas, to incorporate it. So that'd be kind of cool. Synths says right now they believe the player character has his gun either because we beat Cade in a bet. Cade is infamous for losing bets, or because we're bringing it back to him. Not because it was his last will to take his gun with the help of Banshee. I'm not quite following that, but I get what you're going after, right? Right. The player character believes one thing, that they're, there's like, oh yeah, this is just because of a bet we lost or something, right? But come to find out, everyone else is looking around at each other like, shh, don't say anything, Zevron says, I'm quoting a quest chain in Destiny 2. Not a big deal. You're fine. But what I'm doing is making it, I'm pulling from it the threads of creation that for the character died a year ago. Well, kind of put a period on the end of that story. Yeah, no, I'm pulling out of it threads of creation for others who, like myself, I've never played Destiny 2, but I would definitely find like a creative spark from something like that. So, but anyway, guys, we've come upon yeah, hit over the head, hit over the head with the sarcasm. I hear you, Zev. So thank you, Zevron, and everyone else, Pelor, everyone. You do not have to apologize for that at all. For playing Destiny 2 is what I mean. I'm just picking with you. Anyway, we've come to the hour mark, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for being part of this channel. If you love long form, interaction, or maybe you just have like your brain is just filled with cobwebs and you need to just get that extra spark, please join RPG with DBJ. Episode is titled Warforged and Synths. Might do that tomorrow or future Friday. But anyway, yeah, 90% Warforged talk. Somewhat, but I mean, why the hell not? We're going to go there, right? It is inevitable before I snap my fingers. So anyway, guys, everyone, take care. Pelor, have a great one, guys. I will see thee tomorrow on Third Pillar Thursday, Third Pillar of Exploration. Have a great one. See ya. Bye. Yep, Everon is coming out.